Done. Okay, so welcome. My name is Jessica Castaneda. I'm with IDRC, and this is one of our monthly webinars. We are super excited to have Natasha and Aiden from Level here with us. One of the challenges you guys have is not always have our migrant kiddos have someone else in their life that has gone to college or done certain career paths after high school, and we don't always, when you first get into the home, you're looking for resources to be able to share with them. And when we came across Level, we've been really impressed with the resources that they have. I think it's something that all migrant ed programs should know about. And it's a free resource. It's not always free, but it can be free for the migrant ed kiddos. So we just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. And so I'm not going to take any of their time. I'm excited and grateful that you guys are here, and just turn the time over to you guys.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you so much for the opportunity to present to this amazing group. My name is Natasha Desherbinen, and I manage partnerships at Level. Prior to joining the team, I was working in high schools as a school counselor, advising students on their post-secondary paths, whether that was college, trade school, military, etc. So I've been with Level for about 3 years now, and really excited to share the resource with you. This is a population that I care deeply about. I've worked in a number of spaces where there have been migrant students, undocumented students who are where English is not the first language spoken at home. And so excited to be able to share this, not just with your students, but also their parents and guardians, and hopefully they can find some value in it as well. I have my colleague Aiden joining the call. I'll pass it over to Aiden. He's going to be monitoring the chat. So as I am presenting, don't feel like you need to wait to the end to ask questions. He can answer questions in the chat as we go through the presentation. But Aiden, would love for you to introduce yourself as well.
Hi, everyone. My name's Aiden. I work remote out in Michigan. So I saw a few people, some Holland, a few other places there. I work on the partnerships team. So I work with Natasha and other people. So helping build partnerships with high schools, with organizations, with networks across the country, like IDRC, and also with our sponsors. And they're the reason why we're able to offer it for free to like select groups of people. So really happy to be here. And I'm glad that we're getting such good turnout here.
Awesome. Well, with that, I'm going to jump into a presentation. We are also going to do a brief demo of the platform today, so you can see what that looks like live. I think that's the best way to really understand what we're all about. At the end of the call, Aiden is going to send a Google form in the chat that you can fill out if you're interested in learning more. With that, we'll be able to send an access link to Level so that you can create your own account on Level for free to dig in and kind of play around with it and see if it could be a good resource to share with your students and families. So with that, let me go ahead and jump right in. I like to start with our mission, which is to level the playing field by providing every high school and post-secondary student with personalized, in-depth support and guidance to realize their lifelong dreams. When we create Level, we want to make sure that we were providing students with an understanding of all the opportunities that could be available to them after high school, including 2-year and 4-year colleges, as well as directly into the workforce, into the military, trade school, tech boot camps, whatever their path is. We want to make sure that they have the information they need to take action and set themselves on that path starting in high school. So there are 5 pillars to our approach. The first is that we're incredibly comprehensive. So as you'll see when I give you the demo, we're kind of a one-stop shop for everything that students might need as they go throughout high school and beyond. We start with 8th graders. You do have to be 13 to create an account on Level. That said, if you support students younger than 13, their parents and guardians could still get access to Level and use the resources on there to support their students or their children. But the content's covering everything from success in high school to college and college alternatives, life skills, financial literacy, career exposure and planning, apprenticeships, community college pathways, and leadership development. As I mentioned, it's really unbiased. So we are not trying to convince students that one pathway is better than another. We start with experts in the field, whether it was a college counselor or a career counselor, financial expert, an electrician who wrote all our electrician content. They create all of the content, and then we present to students so they can figure out what is their best pathway, what is the best fit for them and for their families. One thing I'll note is that Level sticks with students past high school. So once they graduate, they can continue to use Level All for free into adulthood. And as you'll see in a minute, we have tons of resources for young adults as well as older adults. I know you're all supporting families. And what I think is really exciting about our resource is that even though a lot of the content has been designed for high school students, we have a lot of content on there around, as I mentioned, life skills and financial literacy, which is really, and career skills, which, is, I think, helpful for folks of all ages. So excited to share with you how we can support kind of that two-generational model to make sure that both students and their parents and guardians have the resources they need. The second pillar of our approach is that it's presented in multiple formats. This is something that was key when we created Level All. We knew that you can share some good information, but if it's not engaging, we're not going to capture the attention of high school students, right? And so we designed it to be mobile first. As you'll see in a minute, you'll see some wide margins on the platform. That's because most students are using it on a cell phone, as well as parents and guardians. I think about 70% of our users are using it on a cell phone. That said, I'm sharing it with you today on my laptop, and you can use it on a tablet, laptop, whatever you have available to be able to view the content. It's also really bite-sized, what we call snackable pieces of content. So if you think about TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat, where teenagers are really living on these platforms these days, and that's how they're learning to do lots of different things, we've designed our content to be similar so that we can capture students' short attention spans. So you'll see we have videos, audio, slideshows, quick articles, checklists, infographics, so that they can kind of pop into Level All, explore a topic, and then pop out pretty quickly. The third pillar is that's personalized for the student. So we know it can be really overwhelming if students log on to something and they feel like, oh, there's so much on here, where do I get started? So we've personalized the content so that the homepage is aligned with their journey and is giving them the information when they need to know it. So if they're a 9th grader, they're going to be seeing different information than if they're a 12th grader, and it's going to be aligned with their interests. So it's providing more of a focused experience for them on the platform. We also have an incredible network. So we partner with community-based organizations, with high schools, districts, states, departments of ed, workforce development groups, to be able to give their communities free access to Level All. Aiden mentioned he works with our sponsors, and that's how we're able to provide this as a free resource for underserved communities. So a few of our sponsors include Comcast, American Express, Target, Johnson & Johnson. They really care about the Level All mission and have given us funding to be able to support underserved communities. So with that, any student or family that you work with would receive free access to Level All. There would never be a cost. I think it's also an important time to say that we do not sell information, right? Because there's a lot of skepticism when something's free. We do not sell any kind of data. So the data is really protected. You would be able to see information on your students and families if you wanted to, with a data privacy agreement that we'd ask you to sign, but no one outside of that ecosystem would ever be able to access your students' individual information. Finally, everything we're doing at Level All is leading our users, our students, to a valuable career. So that's kind of our North Star at the end of the day. We want to make sure they have the information they need to pursue a career that's aligned with their interests, and is going to provide them with that financial independence. So this is an overview of our content. I'm going to show all this to you in the platform, but for folks who do opt in on that Google form, we'll also be able to share this slideshow so that you can see it all on the slideshow if you prefer. One thing that is important to know as you start to look at our content is you'll notice that we've designed it really intentionally to lead our students to action. So as a former school counselor myself, I recognized that sometimes I'd be sharing a resource with a student. Maybe I was talking to them about how to interview for their first part-time job, or how to explore a career as a welder. But we just kind of talk about the background information. And I wasn't always giving them the next steps that they could take, right, to move forward in that goal. So everything that you see on Level All, whether it's preparing for a job interview, writing a resume, making sure that you are taking notes in a way that makes sense for you in class, study skills, or pursuing a career, we're going to give you the action steps that you can take today in high school to start working towards that goal. You'll see what this looks like kind of in action in the platform in a minute. So this is going to give you a broad overview of our content. The important takeaway here is that behind each of these bullet points, there's about 25 to 50 pieces of those snackable pieces of content. So that could be a slideshow, video, infographic. And, you know, these can be pretty complex topics for young folks to learn about, but we always make sure to break it down into really simple language. And again, always leading them to action. So this is our content that supports our 8th graders, all of our high school success content. And again, I'll show you this in the platform and you'll have an opportunity to create an account and really dig in to see what this looks like a little bit more in depth. But just to give you a preview, all of our pre-college, so this would be planning, applying, as well as affording college, understanding the financial aid process, making sure that students understand what is available to them. In particular, I'll note we have a module on affording college as an undocumented student. So if you do support students who are undocumented, we help them understand what opportunities might be there for funding within their state, so they can take advantage of any kind of opportunities to fund their higher education. We also have a lot of content on that transition to college and then success once they arrive on campus, as well as community colleges. So both the application process and then planning and success once they're there. I'll also note we have resources for non-traditional students. So if you do have adults, parents, and guardians that you work with that are looking at pursuing higher education, there's a lot of information on Level All for them as well. It's not all just written for, you know, the traditional student right out of high school. We have information around, as I mentioned, apprenticeships, trade school, military, etc. A ton of information on career skills. So this is where I think both our young adults in high school can benefit, as well as some of our adults who can, you know, think about transitioning to a new job or interviewing or writing their resume, networking. We partner with career centers. So I know that we have, you know, 50-year-olds on Level All using some of the career resources that we have on here.
You have
And
a
then finance.
question, you have a
Yeah.
question that says, to be clear, is this directly for high school or students, or can you also go younger, like in middle school, and is the information in Spanish?
Yes. So 8th grade. So you have to be 13 legally to get onto the platform. So typically 8th grade is our youngest population. That said, we do have parents and guardians of younger kids using the platform, right? So a parent or guardian could create an account and then share that, you know, information with their student. We also have, you know, educators, whether that's a teacher, a mentor, supporting 7th graders or 6th graders that will create an account and then use the resource in a classroom setting. I'll show you our educator hub in a little bit, which has a lesson plan library. So that's the question about age. And I would say most of the content is designed for that like 8th to 12th grade. I shouldn't say 12th grade because it's really, so let me rephrase. I would say the content's mostly designed for like a age 13 to, we'll call it 24 population. That said, so much of it is applicable to adults. I was just about to start talking about our financial literacy section, and I'll tell you that 75% of this content is new to me. Like I'm still learning from the stuff that we have on our site. In terms of Spanish, so yeah, I was going to show you all once I get onto the site that is translated into Spanish. We are still working on updating videos and infographics. I'll show you where you can translate it into Spanish in your profile. But I want to highlight that the entire experience will be in Spanish by the end of this year. So there are still some infographics and some videos that are in English, and those will be translated by the end of this of 2024. Great. So financial literacy and life skills are some of my favorite content in the platform. So this is really applicable, as I mentioned, to folks of all ages. And I'll spend some time sharing that information with you once we get into the platform. And then, as I just mentioned, dedicated support for job seekers of all ages as well. So whether you're getting a part-time job in high school or pursuing your first job out of high school, or maybe you're transitioning and doing a new job completely as an adult, it kind of supports all phases of that career journey. And then this is showing you what I just mentioned, which is that Level All really is sticking with you for life. So it's one platform that students can start using as early as age 13 and then can continue to use into young adulthood and beyond. All right, so I'm actually going to switch screens here and go into our demo. Really quickly, I'll just highlight, as I previewed for you just now, that we do have some educator resources. I'm going to share these with you in the platform themselves. But this includes a free lesson plan library, as well as some presentations that you can use in either classroom settings or workshop settings with students and family members. This is a preview of what those would look like, and I'll go ahead and share those with you once I jump into the demo. So I am switching screens here. Aiden, can you see the app now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Let me see if I can make this. Okay, so this is a visual of the homepage, and today it's set up for both an educator and a high school senior. So you're seeing kind of a hybrid account just for demo purposes. As I mentioned, the homepage is personalized for the student. So the information that's going to change will be these little boxes up top. We call these flares. And depending on the student, they're going to see different things. So this student, as a senior who has indicated they are applying to four-year colleges, is seeing a lot of information about that college application process right now. If they were to click into any of these, I'm not going to go into this in depth at this moment, but it's going to lead them to a step-by-step guide to take action on whatever it is they should be focusing on that week. Now, if you had a ninth grader who's logging on here, it's September, ninth grade, maybe we'd have information about time management, about building an after-school routine, about working with teachers and asking for help. So that kind of information will change again, depending on the student and the time of the year. We also have our educator hub. This would just appear if you have educator access. When we set up your accounts, the link that we'll share with you all will give you educator access so you can see the free lesson plan library and the presentations that you could access. But your students wouldn't see that, and parents and guardians would not see that. They would just see the information that's up top here. Scrolling down, we have a preview of my journeys. I'm going to go into our journeys a little bit more in depth later on in the demo. But for now, you can just know that journeys are leading students to a longer term goal that they've been working on over time. So that could be something like applying to a four-year college, which has a lot of steps. We break it down into bite-sized steps for them so they can think about all the different things, but one at a time, so they don't get overwhelmed in that process. We also have some tools on the right-hand side, including our college finder, our scholarship finder, our career clusters that students can explore. And then down below is the information that the content the student has recently been working on, whether that is things that they have just recently viewed or started a project on, and I'll talk about our projects in a minute, or recommended content below. This is like when you're watching Netflix and you finish a show and it comes up with another recommended show for you. So relevant information, whether that's on your career journey or financial literacy or life skills. As I move through to the Discover section, this is a really good place if you decide to create your own account to dive in and really explore all the content on the platform. As I mentioned, we're a one-stop shop, so we have everything that students need to know, and this is where you can see it all in one place. Our educator hub, as I mentioned, has a library of lesson plans. So if you jump into career planning, just as an example, you can view a number of lesson plans that you could use with students in a classroom setting or in a workshop of sorts. Just to show you an example, this one is on building your future life. It's helping students think through their life and careers and what their goals and aspirations are and how that might relate to a career path. What's really, I think, helpful about the way these have been written, first of all, they're written by teachers who really understand how to engage high school students in a classroom setting, but they're also really scripted. So if you forgot to plan something for the day, or maybe you're not an expert in this topic, it's really easy to implement this in a classroom setting. Sometimes we'll reference some of the resources that are available on Level All, but the goal here is that students are, doing some partner work, teamwork in class, really doing some reflecting. And then once they leave that classroom, we're equipping them and empowering them with the resources that are on Level All. So once they go home or once they go off to their next class, they can still access those resources so they feel like they have the information they need to continue to move forward, and they don't have to come back and have the same conversation with you every single time. It gives them a little bit more independence to find that information that's vetted on Level All to continue on and work on whatever their goals are. So that's just one example of a lesson plan. We also have a number of presentations that you can download. You can see these are newer to the site. We continue to add different presentations, but to give you an example, this one's on job interviews. This is giving you a cover page that you can edit. I should say with both our presentations and lesson plans, folks are, open to edit either of those. You don't have to just take it as is. You can customize it for the setting that you have. If you like it as is and it's going to work perfectly for your setting, fantastic. You don't have to do any more work. You can simply download this PowerPoint presentation and then use it in a classroom setting. These were designed because we heard from partners that they didn't have time to create PowerPoint presentations from scratch. So we designed them to hopefully alleviate some of that work so you can focus on the work that really moves the needle, which is, meeting individually with students and families. Moving through our content. So I'll start with our high school success section. I'm not going to dive into all of these modules here, but you can get the gist that this is really focusing on how students can find success in college, whether that's goal setting or extracurricular activities, how to excel in your classes, getting an internship, building a high school resume. I thought I'd pop into this one because I think this is probably a common experience for a lot of the youth that you work with, which is transitioning to a new high school. So this will give you a sense of how we design our modules at Level All. As I mentioned, we always start with the background knowledge before giving students an understanding of what can they do next and actual action steps that they can take to move forward in whatever they're working on. So for this one, I'll just show you an example of some of the content here. You can see this is a 1-minute read. We can click a button and it will actually read it for us. You can see there's different little graphics in between. So it's really digestible, quick and easy for students and parents and guardians to scroll through. So this is giving them all the background info on, thriving at a new school. This is giving some information about transferring. So, I imagine that most of your students are transferring because they're moving. This is an example of one of our slideshows. So you can kind of picture students scrolling through right on their phones. We have, tips on how to adjust to a new culture, things like reading the school's handbook, getting to know the campus. So again, really bite-sized, quick tips that students can move through and eventually come to the project. We have information on starting right in your classes, on making friends, and then again, leading them to action. So the project is that piece of the module that is leading them to action. This is a step-by-step guide that students can use. And it's really easy to kind of navigate, right? We're going to give them in little chunks how to move forward with this goal. So again, reviewing your available options. This would be if students are looking at specific schools and figuring out where to go. They can mark each of these steps as complete as they go, so they can keep track of what they've accomplished. And then if you are working with a student and you've opted in to be able to view that student's data, you also get to see the projects they're working on and the progress on those projects. So you can see this is about 10% of the way complete. As the student works through this progress bar would fill up. And then if you're working with that student, again, you'll have access, or if you want access, you could see it, how far along they are in working in that particular project. So moving into our college sections, we have 3 different college sections, starting with college planning. So this is helping students think about what schools could be a good fit for them. What kind of application materials are required and how to navigate those application options. You'll notice we have specific resources for students who are first generation, who are undocumented, to help them navigate some of the nuances in the process for them. And then we do have information on that transition and success. So again, Level All sticks with your students once they graduate from high school, whether you're working with them or not, they can continue to have that access. And this is going to help them if they are attending a 2-year or 4-year college, understanding everything from how to work with their professors and attend office hours to how to navigate a dining hall or live with a roommate, anything that they might need to be successful in that college setting. And then I will note we also have a particular module, I think, on the supporting a non-traditional student who's in college. So if you do work with any parents or guardians who are pursuing higher ed, that could be a good resource for them as well. And then finally, our affording college section, I already spoke a little bit about this, but including scholarships, loans, as well as some specific information around how to pay for college if you're undocumented. We also have our college alternatives section, which includes, again, the military, trade school, tech boot camps. And then we have 2 career sections. The first is on career skills. So this is going to be everything students need to know to be able to pursue that first job, starting with career exploration. So we have our career clusters. I love these modules because they really allow students to explore different pathways in careers. So maybe they want to jump into STEM and learn about what are all the different pathways within STEM, some example jobs, some different work environments. What is the opportunity here in terms of in demand? Is this an in-demand career field? We have some fun, quick BuzzFeedy like quizzes that students can take. And again, the goal here is really to give them that exposure to help them understand what are the opportunities out there and to be able to envision, could this be a path for me? I'll just note that I think this information is awesome for students, but it's also really helpful for adults who are supporting students. When I was a school counselor, I would have really benefited from a lot of this career content because I wasn't an expert in every field. In fact, I probably only knew education, right? That was the field I was in. So to be able to give my students this information and kind of explore it together would have been really useful. We also have a ton of content on, again, navigating that job search, whether that's thinking about writing your resume for the first time or a cover letter, networking while you're still in high school. And then once you arrive in that job, things like leadership in the workplace. How do you work with a mentor? How do you navigate professionalism in a workplace? Even as a high school student, if you have a part-time job, what does professional communication look like? How do you navigate conflict if you have a conflict with a manager, et cetera? And then our career profile section. So we have over 150 career profiles. These range from careers you can pursue right out of high school through ones that you might need a college degree for. I think they're really engaging. I've seen a lot of career resources out there. And I do like how we design it with quick, snappy videos. I'll just play you a snippet of this one.
The world needs leaders. People who work with experts from different fields to get the job done. And nowhere is this more true than on a construction site. Whether it's a home, a skyscraper, or even a bridge, someone has to be in charge. And that person is called the construction site manager.
All right, so you get the idea here, but that's about a 54-second video. So we try to keep them short and snappy, but we want to pull students in, give them a preview of what this job entails, and then we hit them with the fast facts so they can understand what is the median salary, what kind of education do you need, what's the expected job growth. So again, just giving you some examples of how we design our content here to be really bite-sized, I think really visually appealing for students, helping them understand the pathway, including cost and time, and pros and cons. We have salary maps where they can move around state to state and see how much they could expect to make depending on the state that they live in. And then if they want to look around, to neighboring states, we also factor in cost of living and taxes so they can understand what their take-home pay would be in this particular career. Again, I think this is super valuable for educators as well who are working with students and really guiding them on this process. Perhaps my favorite part of our career section, though, is our projects. Again, leading students to action when they're still in high school. So I think, often high schoolers think, well, I don't have to worry about that until after high school. There's nothing I can do now. I'm only in 9th grade. But we're giving them actual bite-sized tips that they can do while they're still in high school. So thinking about what classes might be relevant for this particular career field. Are there opportunities to pursue extracurriculars? We always offer, free opportunities, thinking about volunteering, or other, clubs at their school that they could potentially pursue to check out this career even further. This is a little, example of an email we have. And then if the career does require a advanced degree, we're giving them some information on how to pursue that advanced degree. So if it requires, just as an example, maybe you're looking at welding. For welding, the project would look at how to get an apprenticeship or trade school. It's helping them think about there's actually 4 different ways you can become a welder. So it's helping them think through what is their pathway that they want to pursue, and then giving them the actionable steps to actually pursue that pathway. Because this one requires a 4-year degree, we're showing the students more about, what would you be studying? What majors should you keep an eye out for at the colleges you're interested in? What classes would you be taking? What opportunities should you look at, including the faculty, career center, internships, we have this awesome feature that shows specific scholarships for that career. So opportunities that are pretty niche for all the different careers that we have on the site. So moving through to our last sections on, I call these our adulting sections, right? So we have financial literacy and life skills. These two sections in particular, including our career skills, I guess, so 3 sections, I think are really relevant to folks of all ages. I don't care who you are, if you are an expert in all these things on this list for financial literacy, I don't know where you learned it. You definitely didn't learn it in high school, because I don't think most students are getting this in high school. But things like, budgeting and saving and bank accounts, but also information on how do taxes work, how does health insurance work, for your parents and guardians thinking about, renting versus buying a home. I always like to show the cost of pet ownership as a kind of a symbol of how comprehensive we are on this site. Because dogs are really cute, but they're expensive, right? And so making sure that you're really thinking it through before you get a pet. Also, Medicare, Medicaid, retirement, lots of different resources for folks of all ages. We also have our life skills content on here. So again, students aren't really getting this in high school. I know I didn't, but things like, how do you grocery shop? How do you cook for yourself and rent an apartment for the first time? How do you navigate healthy living, like nutrition and getting enough sleep and managing stress? Guide to moving, right? So thinking about, I could have used this, I just moved. Everything that you need to move successfully and as stress-free as possible. So again, content that's really useful, I think, for folks of all ages. The last thing I'll show on this section is our state pathways. So this is giving students specific information that's in their backyard. So I'll just jump into California here. But we noticed that a lot of states have incredible resources for their students and families, but they're usually buried in PDF somewhere on a government website. So families aren't really accessing this information. So we really wanted to bring it to life in a more engaging way. And so making sure students have all the information they need about state-specific career resources as well as college resources. We have about, I'd venture to guess, I don't know, off the top of my head, 70% of the states complete on the state pathways. There's a few remaining states that we're still releasing. So if you don't see your state on there, know that it is coming soon. Finally, last few features on our site, and then I'll go back to finish a few slides in our presentation here. So our journeys are, as I mentioned on the homepage, longer term goals that students could be working on, and we break it down into bite-sized pieces. So maybe we are working on preparing for high school while you're still in 8th grade. We're going to give students all the projects they need to successfully transition and manage that process. As students complete their journeys, the journey progress bar will populate, and students can start to see their progress on that here. As educators, as mentors, coaches working with students and families, you all would be able to see what your students are working on for journeys and their progress on those journeys. So you can see we have a bunch of ones that we've designed that are pretty generic and can apply to a number of folks. But if there are particular journeys that you want for your students, one thing we do at Level All is customize our content to meet the community's needs. So maybe you just want your students to see one of these journeys, or maybe you want to create your own journey from scratch. It's a good place to talk about our success team at Level All. So every partner that decides to work with Level All gets a dedicated success manager. This is just part of our partnership. There's no charge for this, but they would be able to train staff members, making sure that anyone who's using Level All feels confident using it, helping get your students onboarded so they have accounts as well, and then designing any kind of customization within the platform so that the experience is really truly dedicated for your students and really meeting their needs. Last few tools on here, we have our college finder and our scholarship finder. So you can jump into different schools, learn more with the most up-to-date data and information here. You can then favorite schools and create a list of colleges. If you're working with a student and you have opted in to see that student's information, then you would also get to see the list of schools that they favorited, as well as scholarships, any scholarships that they apply to, they can search for here, and then maintain a scholarship list. I won't get too into the dashboard today, but just know that we do have this dashboard where you can set up groups of students and get to look at students' information. Look, there's our friend Aiden on here. Aiden, I don't know if you have any data on yours. I don't want to put you on the spot, so maybe I won't click into it. Let me go into our friend Sonia. So these are our staff members at Level All. We of course can't show you real student information, but just to give you a sense, so you can capture what students are working on again in the platform, if they've saved any colleges or scholarships, and then how often they're logging on to the platform. So you can kind of monitor how often they're using it. Again, their progress on those projects and then progress on journeys. If they were working on any journeys, you could see that here. You can also create cohorts of students. So you could see, you know, all of your 8th grade boys or all of your, I don't know, 10th grade students who have just moved to the area. So you can then see kind of cohort level data for your students across the board and what they're clicking into. And then it's also where you can invite students to join Level All, as well as monitor if they actually have created an account or not. Finally, we do have a partners page here. We'll talk a little bit about a partners page and what we could do for you all in terms of customizing this. This is where you'll see some of our sponsors featured. To be very clear, students would only see this if they click to the partners page, and there's nothing that's being sold here. So there's no advertising allowed on the site. The only thing that our sponsors are allowed to have here is like basically career information or information about their DEI efforts. So you can see for American Express here, we have some information about some of their internships. These are all opportunities that students can pursue with our sponsors. Finally, I did want to show you the translation. So over here in the profile section, you can add, you can move to Spanish. Again, the majority of the site is currently translated into Spanish, but we are still working on updating videos and infographics, which will be done by the end of the year. But you can, you know, kind of move through this information and see our modules in Spanish to get a better sense of what the content is like translated. Another thing that you can do here is add family members. So as I mentioned, you all would get access to be able to view what your students are working on, but students can also add up to 5 team members to get free access to Level All. So this could be a parent, guardian, older sibling, cousin, grandparent, whoever is helping them on their journey can also get access to Level All for free and be able to support that student on their post-secondary journey. All right, we have a few last slides that I wanted to highlight here, and then we'll move into some Q&A. So a lot of this information I've already reviewed, but we did want to highlight some of the specific resources for migrant families and ways in which we can support your programs. So one is increasing program awareness and participation. So I'll show you a little bit about how we can customize some content on the platform to raise that awareness. Of course, I highlighted some of the resources that we do have for first-gen students and, you know, kind of supporting any kind of first-gen or migrant student on their pathway to college and success once they arrive. But knowing, right, that's not the only path that students might take. We also have a lot of information around the career exposure and pathways for your students. And then finally, long-term support. So helping them beyond those high school years to make sure they're transitioning out of high school into adulthood successfully. So one way we're able to create some customized content that supports your efforts on Level All is by creating a partner page. So we do create partner pages. This is an option. It's not required, of course, of our partners, but if they do want to feature any of their resources on the site, this can be an external thing that anyone on Level All can view, or you can close it off to your families and create kind of a library of resources specifically for the families that you work with on Level All, creating a landing page of sorts for your students and families. We also have the ability to create custom flares. So if you remember on the homepage, those flares up top are kind of calling our students' attention to what they need to be thinking about that week. This could be highlighting a scholarship opportunity, a job opportunity in the area. This is where you could work with the success manager at Level All to design something that is upcoming for your students that you want them to learn more about. I highlighted some of these already on in the demo, and I definitely encourage you to check out them once you create that account if you do decide to create your own free account on Level All. But these are some of the resources that support the kind of the whole student, the migrant and first gen student through high school and beyond. And we've also linked here, and again, I'll send this PowerPoint to anyone who opts in, some information on, you know, specifics that support first gen students as they navigate that college application process. Beyond college, though, making sure students have that career support. I don't think I called out these 3 modules, but they're some of my favorites on the site. Really meeting students where they're at. I know for most of my students, they kind of fell into that first module, but I don't really know what I want to do. And even my students who kind of knew what they want to do, you'd like dig in really deep and then realize that they still didn't really know. They maybe picked it up from somewhere. So really helping support students and wherever they are to figure out what that career pathway could be for them with all the different resources on the site. This is just a continuation showing you some of our pathways that students can use to understand what their opportunities are beyond high school. And then finally, that long-term support, both with, you know, for both, I would say students and then also their family members with career skills, financial literacy, and life skills. The last thing that I think is a little bit helpful to share, just for folks who are working directly with students and supporting students and families, and this is a very hypothetical schedule, but I think sometimes folks hear about Level All and then they have trouble visualizing how they'd use it. So just to give you an example use case of how you could potentially use this with students that you're working with, and I know your schedules probably look very different than this, but if you'll bear with me and just kind of entertain me with this. So the, you know, just 8:30 start, you're working one-on-one with a student who's struggling to create a resume. We have plenty of resources on the site, whether that's a lesson plan. And we do have situations where our educators are using lesson plans one-on-one with a student because they see that it's a helpful kind of framework to have a conversation with a student. Of course, you don't have to read off the script in that case, but provides kind of a way to work through a particular issue or provide more guidance, especially if you're unfamiliar with the topic. You know, 9 o'clock rolls around and you're working with a 12th grader who's struggling to make decisions about college planning. Again, plenty of information on the site that you can navigate with that student, really empowering them to take that information home with them, right? And still have it at their fingertips when they get home so they can continue to work on whatever it is that you discussed during that meeting. Developing healthy life skills, again, something that's probably not talked about enough in high school, but we have things like habit formation, you know, exercise, stress management, nutrition, et cetera, that students can take advantage of on the site. Maybe you're leading a workshop with a group of students on affording college, and maybe you're not an expert on affording college because the financial aid process is really complicated. There's very few experts out there because there's a lot to keep track of. You can have the resources on Level All to be able to guide that student and family on any kind of funding around and budgeting, right, around day-to-day college expenses or around the college application process. This is a snapshot of our dashboard. So you can see if you had a bunch of students that you're working with, is it a good place to check in and see what your students have been clicking into? One of my favorite features is being able to see that, like, oh, I don't know, all of my students are interested in becoming chefs. Like maybe we can find a chef that can come in and chat with them so they can learn more about that career path. So it gives you some high level data as well as that individual information. We talked about this one on the site, but the social media restrictions, this is becoming more and more significant as students are kind of living on their phones. And then again, using it as your own professional development tool. So using the information on there to prepare for a meeting with a student on a topic that might be unfamiliar to you. And that is one of my favorite use cases of Level All personally. So that is the dashboard in a nutshell. I know I've been talking at you all for a very long time, so I apologize for that, but there's a lot to cover, and I hope that gives you a good sense of what's on the platform. I love at this time to open it up for questions, and I don't know if there's a few, Aiden, in the Q&A that we might want to share out live.
Yeah, I've been answering these as they've been coming in, but there's been a handful. There's some that are in there right now. Like I think a few people have been interested in how the onboarding code will work, if they'll get one generally or if it'll be case by case.
Yeah, so that's a good, yeah. So we can talk a little bit about in terms of next steps, if you decide level law was something that you wanted to move forward with and use with your students, the way the onboarding process works. So you would be assigned as a success manager. They again would train you and any staff members that would use level law with your students, and then they help you to get your students on board. There's two ways to get students on board. One is there is a hyperlink or QR code that we can create that's specific for your students. That way they are tied to you all so that they populate in that dashboard and you can see what students are using level law. And again, they just could scan it, the QR code they can just scan or click the hyperlink and they could create their own account that way. The other way is that you can upload a spreadsheet and your success manager can help you with this. But a spreadsheet of student email addresses, they would get an invite saying, congrats, you've been given access to level all. Click here to activate your account. They can click that button and then they're in. We have Google single sign-on. The whole onboarding process for a student, I think they have timed it. It's like 42 seconds. We try to keep it really quick to get students on. I do see that there's a question about flyers in the Q&A. So yes, we with your success manager, they'll often create custom flyers for you to be able to then share out with your students and families. And on that flyer, we would usually include that QR code so that a student or a family member could scan that QR code and then easily create their account. And it does include more information about what level law is and what kind of information is on there that would help them in their journey.
There was also a question on whether all current or former migrant students would receive this for free.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So if you are still in touch with your former students, we would love to be able to give them access for free as well. Really, anyone who is in that community that you've worked with, either you're working with now or in the past, would qualify for that free access. So they could absolutely get free access too. Any other questions that weren't answered or Aiden that you think would be helpful to share out full group?
There were a few other questions about the language, like languages other than Spanish. And I'd mentioned that since we're web-based, you can just use the browser to translate it. But I know next in our queue is, I believe, Haitian Creole and Portuguese. But if you want to share anything else about that.
No, that's great. Yeah, I think that is super helpful to include. I actually prefer that it's in a browser myself. I know we have plans to eventually have a native iOS app. I'm not very tech savvy. I'd rather just have it on a web browser. It's easier for me to access. I don't have to download an app. It gets clunky that way. Awesome. So Aiden, I think I saw that you shared the Google form. Do you want to put it in the chat right now, just so it's very easy and accessible for folks? In terms of next steps, if you are interested in learning more and either getting free access, we can send you a link. Or if you are interested in getting just the PowerPoint presentation, we can also share that out as well. Yes, I just actually, good timing. I just saw that question come in. I do have this, I can absolutely share this PowerPoint. We can either share it out. Actually, Jessica, are you able to chime in here? Would I be able to share this out with a full group if I send it to you?
Yeah, if you send it to me, we'll send a recording of today and the PowerPoint to everyone that registered.
Even better. And then Jessica, what I might also add to that is the access link for folks to create a free account as well.
Perfect.
So that is just easy in everyone's inbox in one place.
Yeah.
And then if you're interested in moving forward, I'll also, maybe we can include that interest form link as well. Feel free to click into that interest link form now and fill that out. But we'll also include it in the follow-up email if that's okay, Jessica, just so folks can easily access it again.
For sure. Yeah, no problem at all.
Awesome. Great. I'm going to drop the link in one more time for folks, and we can stay in here. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, I see, Aiden. That's going just to, it's not going to everyone. Now it's going to go to everyone. That was going just to the, okay. Now everyone should see the link. If folks have questions, we can stay on. If you don't have questions, thank you so much for giving us your time today and opting in. I know you have lots going on, so we really appreciate the time that you've given to us.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and pause the recording. but then
Great.
feel free to ask any questions, answer any questions.
Perfect.